Good afternoon, John Conley with Success Real Estate.
Name of Mendes-Del with Success Real Estate.
We're here to talk to you this afternoon about investment properties.
Investment properties, John.
Yes.
When you say investment property, what are the different kinds of investment properties?
So we deal with just residential real estate. In that regard, you're going to be looking at three different types of investment properties. So there's going to be a resale, which is better known with all the movies, all the shows that are out there right now. When you're buying and reselling, it's better known as flipping a property.
Okay.
Second one's going to be is actually being a landlord. So you buy the property today and you're a landlord, you get hopefully a positive monthly cash flow for the next 15, 20 years. And of course the third one's going to be speculating a real estate market.
Okay.
And speculating a real estate market is you may buy a lot of land beside a new subdivision with the hopes that that subdivision is going to bring your land up.
Let's say I'm looking to invest in real estate property, right?
Yes. Yep.
What would you say I should start with? Should I just go in and start flipping, or should I just go in and buy?
No, that's
Like,
a very good question. How do you identify which
Yeah.
one of those three roads to travel down?
Yeah, anyone in general.
So
How
the
would I-
first question I'd ask yourself would be, one, your funds. Like, what type of funds do you have? So if you're going to buy a property, you're going to have to come up with a lot of capital because you have to put all the money into it for that new kitchen, that new bath, that new heat.
Exactly.
So for some people, that's not even an option. But the best part about flipping a property is that you don't deal with tenants. And that's the best part about it, is you just got to deal with time and you got to deal with putting up the money in order to be able to make that happen.
Exactly.
I often call flipping a property today money. So you sell the property and you make your profit today.
Okay.
Now, let's talk about owning a multifamily. Owning a multifamily property, and it's difficult. And there are those times on Thanksgiving morning you're going to get a phone call saying, hey, I've got no heat. And,
Yes, you need to come
it's
and-
Friday night, and
Exactly.
the next door neighbor is screaming, and there's not enough parking in the parking lot. So you do deal with those issues. But the best part about being a long-term landlord is basically going to be that I think that's the most profitable. The longer you're in it, the more you stand to gain. So
Exactly.
and I do a little bit of both. I will take my properties that I flip and I'll take the profits from them and then I'll reinvest them into long-term three families and five
Okay.
families. Now,
Yes.
the last one's going to be speculating a real estate market.
Okay, so how do you speculate in real estate?
Let me give you a perfect example.
Yes.
10 years ago, I went out to Arizona because the market in Florida, the market in Arizona, Nevada, California, Northern California was crazy, crazy hot. I was buying single-family homes. I was holding them, and I was hoping, within 4 or 5 months after holding them with no one being in them,
Okay.
I would get a gain of upwards of 10%. Not bad for tying up my money.
No.
But that's a lot of risk.
Exactly.
And
It's a
when the-
risk you have to be willing to take.
And when the
Okay.
music stopped, which it stopped, and
Okay.
there wasn't a chair to sit down in, I seen a lot of people, I seen a lot of investors actually get hurt. So on a risk level, without a doubt, you're going to be looking at speculating a real estate market holds the most amount of risk. I think flipping a property, your risk factor is the market could shift. I mean,
Exactly.
you and I both know a real estate market can shift between 6 to 8 weeks.
Exactly.
You buy the property in November and it's your intent
And
to put
then-
it back out
yep.
the market in February, well, the market could have shifted.
Exactly.
If you buy a multifamily home, your numbers pretty much are going to be fixed as long as you have a fixed interest rate locked in on that property. So if you're earning today, hypothetically, at the end of the month, you're earning $1,100, odds are in 2 years from now, you're going to be earning anywhere between $1,100 to $1,300.
Exactly.
So the stability is there with definitely being a landlord, and it's not as much of a nightmare as people make it out to be.
So you would say, as a starter, you would invest in buying a multifamily.
I'd probably
or-
say a multifamily. If we've got some tradesmen that can come in and sit back and say, hey, look, I have the ability to be able to get in, clean those properties up. If you can find the funding for it, I would start with, if it's at all possible, flipping a property,
Okay.
and maybe you can make $30,000 or $50,000 from that.
Okay.
You take that property, that
Yes,
profit,
that profit.
and then you go and you put it into
Exactly.
a multifamily home.
Exactly.
I'm a firm believer. When my children were born, I bought them single-family
Yes,
properties
Yes. Yes.
for their college tuition.
What was the purpose of that? Why did you do that?
I had two options. That's a good
Yes.
question. Option A would be is to give start a college fund account with my financial advisor,
Okay.
or I could go and do what I know best, what we know best, which is to
Exactly.
buy a single family home, rent it out,
Exactly.
had good tenants in there
Exactly.
that really didn't harass me over the time, and then once we get into the kids going to college, and both my children are in college right now. I'm one of those lucky parents that have double college education I'm paying right now.
That's
But the best part about that is that I can refinance those properties and pay for my children's college education because of that. And at the end of the day, I've got an asset that has been appreciating. And when I was to look at a return from my financial advisor versus the return of a real estate investment, I think the real estate investment has absolutely crushed the rate of return. And to me, that was worth doing. Some people, it may not be, but for me, it never has made enough sense to do that.
Okay. So it worked for you, and that's what you did.
Yep.
All right, John, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. This was amazing. Stay tuned, guys, because the next video we're going to be talking about the return on your investment.
What
John,
is the best return on your
yes,
investment?
can you give them a little,
Yeah,
give them a little tease?
absolutely. So, I mean, you know, some people will sit back and say to me, hey, look, I got $50,000. What's the best way for me to be able to use that $50,000? And we can talk about it. If you buy a 2-family home, what type of return on your investment are you going to be able to get? And then I challenge you to take that return on investment and sit down with a financial advisor and see which one of the two are going to be better.
How perfect.
We're going to talk about what type of reserves. If you do buy a multi-family home, what type of reserves should you have? If you're going to be flipping a property, well, the biggest question is, well, you know, I only want to make $100,000. Well, the odds of you ever flipping a property are going to be slim to none, if that's what you're looking for. But, you know, I'm a firm believer, Nima, when you're going around the bases, just looking for singles, and I call a single $30,000 to $40,000.
Exactly.
So if each one of your properties, if you make $30,000 or $40,000, we'll talk about that. Well, how much money do you have to put in order to be able to make that profit coming back out? And of course, we'll talk a little bit about speculating on a real estate market, what type of returns are on that dangerous, because that should, in essence, yield you the highest return, right?
Exactly, yes.
And lastly, obviously, if anyone needs a list of investment properties, all you need to do is to reach out to either one of us, and we'll be more than happy to put a list of investment properties that we deem to be good investments in 2017. Be more than happy to do that. Until next time.
We'll see you until next time.
Can't wait to see it.